Chat and Vibes with DJ Sims. Hey guys, it's your girl DJ Sims and welcome back to my second episode of my very own podcast, Chat and Vibes. And in today's episode, I'm so excited because I'm going to be speaking all about South Asians and I have a very, very special guest to join me. For this episode, I have a boss lady who represents for us and her name is Nileeka. Hi. Got Nileeka in the studio. How are you?
I'm good, just clapped for myself there.
Okay, so before I got you on, and I even asked you this when I saw you last week, I was like, what is your role? Because I know you do so many things. You're a choreographer, you're a creative director, you're a dancer, you're an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about your roles.
Yeah, so I think the word I used was dancepreneur. So it's any product to do with dance is something I want to be involved with. So that's creative of dance, the putting together of like how it should look visually, whether that's the actual choreography or bringing people together that may do a different style of dance that I don't do. So yeah, it's a little bit of everything in entertainment, and obviously it goes hand in hand with the music industry as well. So I tend to do a lot with up and coming South Asian artists, and yeah, it's just a huge passion of mine as well.
Oh, that's amazing. But how would you say this all started for you? Like, what was that turning point where you were like, okay, I want to be a dancer? Obviously you do so much more now, but what was that turning point for you where you just knew this is what you wanted to get into?
So I think it was more the business of dance that I fell in love with, and just saw so many products that I couldn't see on the market that I wanted on the market. And when I was growing up and learning Bollywood, there was like two places to learn. I lived out in Surrey, where it wasn't really available. You'd have to drive into Central or Essex, and you know, there were so many styles of South Asian dance that were not catered for. So I couldn't find Bhangra classes, I couldn't find classical classes, I couldn't find the things that I wanted to find. And similarly, now there's a whole new wave of Brit Asian music, and obviously we're using music that's been around for years, but there was no class to dance to that kind of music that I was listening to at home. So in my company, there are classes for each of those styles, and we really focus on not just Bollywood, it's the whole of the South Asian diaspora.
And that's what I love, because that literally, like exactly what you said, it was hard to find, you know, you had to travel into Central. I was actually going to ask you, like, do you think being a Bollywood dancer in the UK is different to, like, let's say you're a Bollywood dancer in India?
Yeah, unfortunately it is. And the sad reality is that there are too many dancers in India. And I know because they write to me every day almost.
Yeah.
And they see the UK as this sort of amazing place where there's tons of opportunity, but actually we do have the same problem here, but it's not just Bollywood dancers, it's like a lot of dancers, and there are so many dancers and so few jobs. So yeah. I think the thing with my team is that when I bring someone on as one of my pros, I promise them that I'm not going to hire on a million other people that look like them, because my job as their manager is to get them work.
Yeah.
And I think it's not much point being on someone's books if you're not getting the calls to do the jobs. So that's why I stay limited, but hopefully it's a mutual relationship.
Yeah, no, I 100% get you. You've done some amazing, amazing things. Like, your career has just like taken off. And one of the things which I absolutely loved to see was when you choreographed Marvel Eternals.
Yeah.
And I think for you to be representing South Asians, and even that whole, the Marvel Eternals, like, it was just so refreshing to see. How did that actually come up?
The way that most of my jobs come up is just a single email, which just doesn't tell you very much about what the job is.
Yeah.
So like that, we were told the film, it had a code name. It wasn't called, hey, we're here scouting for the Eternals. It was called something completely different. So
really?
We had no idea what it was. I was abroad at the time doing a job.
Yeah.
And I just replied immediately, because I get these gut instincts when I know that something is big and that I need to reply to it in a timely manner and not leave it till I get home.
Yeah.
So they were quick, I was quick, and by the time I was leaving that job, it was in the south of France. I was landing in England knowing that I was going to a meeting with the director of a big movie, going to Pinewood Studios and meeting the director.
Oh my God.
And I told my company manager, I'm meeting the director, and he's like, well, you're not going to meet the director, you'll probably meet someone important, but the director of a Hollywood movie is not going to, you know,
not going to be
sit
there
and talk to you.
Oh my God.
And she did. It was Chloe Zhao. I sat in
Wow.
front of her, she said, so this is for the Eternals. And like, obviously I was walking up to her trailer and I saw Angelina Jolie's trailer. I saw Selma Hayek's trailer. I saw these names. I'm like, yeah, this is the Eternals. Like, this is big, because they were already in production by that point. So it wasn't a case of, oh, we're thinking of doing this movie in the next 6 months. It's like, if you get this contract, you're going to be working here in a month, you know? So it was very, very quick. And because it wasn't just like one scene, it was also helping Kamel Nanjiani to learn to dance. It was honestly my dream job, because my dream is to help people that say they can't dance to say everyone can dance. So I basically got to do that and be the choreographer of the movie. So it was so good.
Wow, that is actually amazing. Like, that story is just like crazy. I think working on a mainstream platform as like a Bollywood choreographer representing for us South Asians was just so refreshing to see, and that must have made you feel great. Like, it must have made you feel great.
Do you know what was great about it was it wasn't just me and the dancers that they picked. I got to use a lot of my own team and open it out to even more South Asian dancers. So there was 50 dancers on screen and they all killed it. And it was so many dancers that were maybe not from my company, some that were, some I'd never worked with before, but they all had that same opportunity. It was open to them. You know? Yeah.
Oh my God, I love that. So would you say there is difficulties for performers, you know, your dancers or all performers? So would you say there's difficulty getting booked? Because I know sometimes, like, even when I've been performing at weddings, like, I think people will try to think, okay, how do we not spend as much money? And they'll be like, we don't need the performers. Would you say there's a difficulty with that?
Yeah, of course. And I think the worst thing about that is that they don't realise they need you till the last minute. And by that point, your life has moved on. You've booked something else in. Yeah. But then there's this constant thing as performers, because we want to be seen in as many places as possible. We try and pull together some way or another, and it kills us on the inside. Like, we do things in a superhuman way because we just want to get that chance to show our talent. So yeah, I think it's probably one of the toughest jobs you can ever do, is be an entertainer or work in the music or dance industry.
I definitely agree. Like, as an entertainer myself, I think it's really hard. And I think people kind of forget, like, you know, we have spent time working on perfecting ourselves. And I think when people see the cost of an entertainer, of how much they need to pay, they're like, why do we need to pay that much? We can go get someone for cheaper.
Well, that's the thing, because they a question that I get asked is, how much you charge for an hour? I'm like, would you dance for an hour? Would you enjoy watching someone dance for an hour? Unless you buy a ticket to watch Matilda the musical. Yeah. You are not at a wedding expecting someone to stand in front of you and dance for an hour. But it's just that, what can I get for my money situation versus, you know, after 10 minutes, they're going to go get a drink at the bar, or there's going to be a screaming child running onto the dance floor. But they don't see it like that. They see, what can I get for an hour? So the most frequently asked question is that it? 10 minutes, 15 minutes, is that how long your sets are? But that is realistically what people watch.
Yeah, of course. How long you would usually perform for, like, with your group?
Yeah, it's 2 sets. They're roughly 10 minutes, maybe 15. But the second the client starts asking me for 20, 30, I know that I'm going to stand there, and half of that time people aren't going to watch me. So,
yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I
know what you mean by that. Okay, so it being South Asian Heritage Month, you obviously hosted a lovely dinner, which I came to, guys, and it was really good. You brought together so many lovely people, and like, what do you think the importance of that is? Because I think it's great that there's a month to celebrate South Asians and our heritage and our culture. So what do you think is the importance of that?
Do you know what? It's so nice to have our culture recognised, and it's a weird one, because I don't think a lot of people understand the purpose of the month. I mean, it is so you can put on events like I did, and I know that you know, there were loads of events, not just mine. I'm just like one person, and I thought I'll put something on for friends and people that I know. I wish it could have been bigger. There were definitely people that, you know, unintentionally I've left off the guest list because I simply couldn't afford to have everyone there.
Yeah, of course.
But it's a starting point, and I think if I don't put myself forward as someone that wants to bring people together, I'm never going to start. And then obviously there wasn't a brand behind it or anything, but you know, next year maybe if someone comes to me and says, I've seen what you're doing, I like that you're bringing people together, of course I'm going to do that. But I thought, this one is from me, so let me keep it small. Let me invite people I know are going to enjoy it, and you know, get on board. If I make them play games, they're not going to say, no, I'm not going to do this. Sit back down. Everyone was up for a laugh, and I think that was the most important thing, that there's no egos in the room. Like, everyone that I invited was like, yeah, I'm up for this, go on then. Like, that was, I think our industry and our South Asian culture is known for having people to have a bit of an ego, and people don't want to sit down. And if someone does the same thing as them, they're not going to go and say congratulations. I've invited, 2 hair oil brands or 2 DJs or, 2 dancers, or we can be in the same place and say well done to each other without being like, oh, here comes that brand.
I really agree with that. I remember you invited another DJ, and I had seen him online everywhere.
Yeah.
And he was on my table, and I was like to my sister, I was like, I think that's that DJ that I've seen online. And I said to him straight away, I was like, I love what you do. I love your videos. Then he was like, I really love what you do. And I just loved that moment because I don't think it happens enough.
It doesn't happen enough because everyone's so scared to go and congratulate. And it shouldn't happen, We're not going to grow as an industry. I'm not saying we all need to collab every 5 minutes, but if we don't acknowledge what's going on, how are we ever going to grow together?
It's so true. Happen. And I feel like I wouldn't say an issue, but one of the issues is I feel like South Asian women are really hesitant on, celebrating other South Asian women that are doing well. I think it's, as you said, it's a bit of an ego thing. And I find it really hard to find other South Asian women who are like, I'm going to support you and what you do.
Oh, for sure. I think that's one of the reasons I sort of keep my head down and do my own thing. And if someone wants to collaborate with me, I'm very open, but I'm not going to go out there and put myself out because it's for years of being knocked back or people not being interested in sort of congratulating or even working together and saying, let's rise together. 100%. It just doesn't happen.
Yeah, sadly. And I think it needs to change. I think it is slowly changing, to be honest. Even at your event, I think everybody was really gelling together, and it's nice to see people who you see online and then you never see them in real life. And I think that was what was really good about your event.
Thank you so much. It meant a lot, and that event, honestly, hopefully was the catalyst to start more stuff like that. Yeah.
You actually did, I know you did a little cute speech at your event, and you mentioned that people assume things about your personal life. And I thought that was really important because obviously being in the media, do you think, people overshare too much about their personal life? Like, how much do you think people should share about their personal life? Because I know you've had some, experience with that.
Oh, terrible experience with that. I will say that social media is such a dangerous place.
Yeah.
And it's such a fine line between giving people open access to everything about you and also permission to judge you, to try and destruct you. And I've kind of made a very conscious decision that even though I want to be public about my work life, I don't need to tell people what, Gigi's having for dinner or where we're going on Saturday. If I'm not online, there's a reason I'm not online, because that's my personal time. And I think I mentioned in the dinner as well, I've had people come up to me and say, but surely your husband's an investor in your company, or he can pay for that. Or no, doesn't pay for anything. He makes his own money and I make my own money.
I love that.
Yeah. And I think giving people the opportunity to judge is something that I realized very fast I didn't want to do. So what they don't know, they can't hurt. So that's everything is that's in my personal time is offline. Yeah.
I love that. And I think, when you're in social media, you're in the media, I think it's so hard to have that time alone, because I feel like in a way, even in terms of me, I feel like my whole life consists of social media. And I think sometimes even when I'm meant to be on a holiday or, away from it, it's automatically still there. It's like I can't get away from it.
Yeah. It's because you're used to it, right? 'Cause if we're used to sharing where we are, we find it weird to not. I think when I'm online, I'm definitely online, but when I'm off, I'm totally off the radar.
Yeah, literally. So I know you obviously work with some influencers as well. A lot of your dancers do have a bit of a following, and I think with influencers at the moment, I've seen this trend going on, and I'm not sure if it's something I don't really have a comment on it, but I wanted to get your comment on it. A lot of influencers are saying I should be getting paid for what I do. Obviously in the beginning, there's a lot of free work that goes on, but I think once people have built their account and their social media, they're I should be getting paid to post. I should be getting paid to post a story. I don't want to have a collab with you. I want to get paid for everything I do.
Yeah.
And I think when I see that sometimes I'm but they're just asking to collab. They didn't do anything wrong.
Yeah. I think it is very difficult because you don't know who you're asking, firstly. That person may have a standard that they want to uphold, or it might be the first time they've ever been paid for anything. So I think people have a right to ask, and everyone has a right to say, not today, no thank you.
Yeah.
So I think it's totally personal choice if you want to do free collabs or not. Same thing with dancing. You know, with artists, we get people say, you know, come and dance for us and you won't be paid, but it's the opportunity to dance at wherever. And at this stage in my career, 10 years on, I don't really need that opportunity. Yeah. However, for someone that's not got it on their CV, fair play to them. And that's why I will never knock anyone that chooses to do free work, even though it's not a decision I can make. But I remember there might have been a time where that opportunity and not the money would have meant everything to me. So I think everyone is on a different stage in their journey. It's their choice whether to say yes or no to free work. One thing I want to do in the dance industry is not to encourage free work so that it doesn't become the norm to ask people to do stuff for free.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with what you said actually, because I think you've been doing it for so long. Like you've had a great, like amazing opportunities as well. Like it's almost like you don't really need that at this stage.
Yeah, but at the same time, if someone asked me to do something for free, I wouldn't say because I don't need it, because I think it just makes people feel awkward for asking.
Yeah, of course. And
yeah, I just want to make sure that people still they can ask, and who knows, it could still be an amazing thing for both parties. So I think. You got to see both sides.
Yeah, I agree with you on that one. Okay, so I did this Instagram video a couple of weeks ago now, and it was all about mixed marriages, and it got like a really good reaction, but it got a mixed reaction at the same time. And being at events, like DJing at events, I've DJed at events where there's been really cool mixed marriages, and I like absolutely love seeing two religions like actually get together and, you know, their families can celebrate it.
Yeah.
Have you personally ever seen like a mixed marriage at your events and thought this is really cool? Because some people did agree with me and some people didn't agree with me over social media.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What was the negative?
I think people negatively were saying like, no, like, you know, if two religions of the same like get married, it's easier, and I think, you know, it's going to be easier in the future. Your kids are going to be confused otherwise about what religion to follow. But
how do they know? Because they've either picked one side of the coin or the other. They're not going to know which is better or worse.
Yeah, of course.
I mean, I can speak from my own experience. So I'm Buddhist and my husband's Christian, and we raised Gigi in both. So, I mean, for me, it's been fine, and there's been no opposition either side. I think it depends on the tolerance of each family and how accepting they are. And I think that's literally it. It's not better or worse. It's who the people are underneath their label.
I agree with that.
So, yeah, I think the world is full of labels. I think the last thing we need is to say that it's easier to get married to one or the other. And I think we need to stop pushing that agenda.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I was thinking. I was like, do you know what, everyone's entitled to their own opinion. And I made that very clear in my like Instagram video that I did about it, and I was like, everyone's entitled to their own opinion. I'm not saying that I'm fully against anything, but I just thought I really like seeing two religions coming together and like it becoming more normal now.
For sure. And I think it is easier if the families are excited to blend. Where they're a bit like, oh, how's this going to go down? It's always, you've got to diffuse anxiety first. So yeah.
Do you think, this actually brings me on to what I want to talk about next, like, do you think there's expectations growing up in a South Asian household? Because I think personally, for me, I've been very blessed. Like, I don't think I've had to go through any issues where there's been major, like, expectations from my parents. And I'm really blessed to have that. But I know, like, a lot of my cousins and a lot of my family, they've been through situations where you have to get married by this age, you have to finish studying by this age, you have to have kids by this age. And it's like limits that's been set. And I'm just like, no, like, how is that possible?
I'm the same as you. I've had no sort of expectations put on me. I'm an only child. I've been allowed to do whatever it is I want. I have had full support from my parents, whether that's if I needed help financially. Thankfully, I haven't had to rely on them too much, but in the beginning, yes, it was tough. There was no timeline for me, and like, thankfully, I feel that I have had that support, but I know for a lot of other people, that's not it. They don't have that, and they have these certain expectations they have to live up to. So I can't really speak from the other side because I've never experienced it, but I know that in some South Asian communities, it is still expected that you have to do things by a certain age. And I guess that's why divorce rates are going up. I think that's why, you know, people are realizing now that actually they shouldn't force their children into things that they're not ready for, because everyone 100%. Has their own timeline. And it's nice to see more South Asian entrepreneurs or people doing things first, like, you know, making their first company, and then getting married.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think there's an order that needs to be set. I think growing up in South Asian households, like, sometimes you can be like, no, you need to finish university, then you need to get married, and you have to have kids, like, I don't know, a year after. Like, there's just so many, like, rules, and I think there doesn't need to be rules. Just live your life how you want to live it.
Yeah.
And, but I think we've done very different things. Like, did you go to university?
I did, yeah.
Did you? What did you study?
I studied law.
Wow.
I know.
See, that's very different.
Undercover, doing my academics. I did all of that first.
Wow.
And then realised it just was not for me. Mm-hmm. So it's not something I publicise, but it's also not something I want to hide, because people have said to me before, well, when I say stuff on social media about, like, being a full-time dancer and stuff, they're like, well, you haven't had an education, so you wouldn't know. And I'm like, well, actually, I have. You know, like, I have done that, and it was a choice I made to not pursue it. But had I not, would you be speaking to me any differently? So I think there is a thing where when you work in entertainment, people assume that you're not switched on, or you haven't had an education, but I honestly think it does not matter if you have or you haven't.
Yeah.
What matters is how well you do the job that they've enlisted you to do.
100%. Like, your job at the moment, you didn't take up law. So, like, no one should define you for what you do, to be honest. And, like, personally, I did a media, like, qualification. Like, I think it ties into what I do, but I didn't go to university. And I think because I'm at that age where, like, technically I should be at university, but I don't think that's going to personally, like, get me anywhere. I think focusing on my career and what I'm doing now is going to get me further than if I was to go to university and waste some time.
Yeah.
And I think now, this generation, it's so nice to see people just doing that.
For sure.
Do you think people need to go to uni anymore, unless they need a degree?
It really depends what your end goal is. I think if you want to move careers, it sometimes is easier to have a degree that allows you to sidestep.
Yeah.
But if you're on a upward progression on something that completely your certificate's not going to be of any use to you, you absolutely don't need to.
Exactly.
Like, what is the point?
And I think that's exactly why I didn't go to uni. I was like, I could, I don't know, study further in media. I could do something completely different.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean, I wasn't academic enough to go to uni. It just means that's just my choice. Mm-hmm. And luckily I had the support from my parents to not go to uni and just do what I do. But I think some people don't have that support, and they have to go to uni and they have to do their studies. And yeah, I think, I don't know, I guess it's a bit sad in a way, but I think it's changing now, which I love to see.
Yeah. Love to.
What do you think about TikTok dancers? Because I've seen so many TikTok dancers which haven't had a dance background, but they've, found a trending video, trending sound, and they've danced. Mm-hmm. They have gone absolutely viral, and they're all of a sudden a dancer.
Yeah, and I think this is a huge problem in the dance industry, where you define a dancer from a TikTok dancer. Now, you can never knock anyone who's doing well, and I've learned that, no matter what reason they are for getting their fame, you can't knock someone for doing that.
Of course.
But at the same time, I do see the problem where someone spent 4 years at dance college, and they're not getting jobs because they're not on TikTok and they're not viral. And that's hard, because a dancer is what they want to be. That's what they feel that they were born to do. Mm-hmm. But there are just too many other TikTok dancers going for the jobs and getting it because of visibility. And I think as a dancer, you need to have visibility, whether you want to or your motivation is not there for TikTok. You got to get on all the platforms. I say this as someone who's completely scared of TikTok. I was called a thirst trap once, and I've just not gone back.
Oh my God.
But I see the potential in it.
Yeah.
And when there's a platform that's that big and opens you to that many people, you simply cannot ignore it. You either have to get on board with it or you lose out. So I will never knock a TikTok dancer, but how I feel is when I've seen them at audition is that they're not used to dancing from their hip down, because all they're used to dancing is on an iPhone ratio. So when you're like, move your legs, they're like, what? No, the other part. So it's hard, So I think it's definitely a balance thing. And there are some incredible TikTok dancers. And the dancers that are doing it the best and killing it are the ones that have done both. The ones that have done dance college, know how to move, and actually know how to work their TikTok and get seen on those algorithms. Everyone's talking about it at the minute, how Instagram, the algorithm's just changing. And
it really is.
It is changing, and it's hard. The second you get your head around one, they switch it up, and you're like,
it's so
what?
true. It's so, I was literally having this conversation earlier. I was like, do you know what? TikTok and Instagram, that is how, do you know what? TikTok, that's how my career started. So
that's the reason you can't knock it.
I know, and I will always love the apps. Like, I try to be as consistent as possible, because if I look back to 2020, 2019, that is how I started, like, as a DJ on TikTok. And I think now it's really hard when some of my videos have hit 1 million, and then now some, like, they do well, but then sometimes because the algorithm, I'm not getting those same views as I was, and I'm like, but I'm doing the same thing or even more or even better. In fact, my skills have probably got way more. Yeah. So sometimes the algorithm, it just doesn't make sense to me.
It doesn't make sense. But I think the second that you start attaching your self-worth to something you can't control, whether that's views, adoration, or love from someone, and you can't control that, you're already losing, because you're never, ever, ever going to get that result because you can't control it. It's coming from some faraway place that it's not going to validate you. So I think people need to know that they need to keep creating things they love. They need to keep creating things that bring them joy and bring other people joy, because at the end of the day, that's your result. And
I feel like, that self-satisfaction is, like, better than how many views you're going to get. And I think it's so important now. I personally think I'm going to get this content out because I want to do it. I'm passionate about, if it's a DJ mix, I'm passionate about this song, and I want to get it out there. If it's a podcast episode, I'm really passionate about this topic, this guest, I want to get it out there. Like, I don't care about the views anymore. It's just got to that point where I'm like, no, like, I want to get the content out there because I do.
For sure, when you ask any artist or any creative, their work that's been the most shared and viewed is probably not their favourite. Their favourite piece is probably something with the smallest amount of views that doesn't engage because it's not current, but that's how art is. Art is not meant to be, adored. It's for a few people to understand, and those are your people,
Yeah.
I don't think Vincent van Gogh sat there painting the sunflowers hoping that, it's going to be reshared or reposted. it's like...
Yeah.
Art is just beyond us all, and it's bigger than everyone.
I know, and I think the main thing is like, people have got to remember, views does not mean talent.
For sure.
Like, it really doesn't.
Yeah.
And I think people forget that and almost get demotivated, because, not gonna lie, it can get demotivating. It's a toxic place, social media. It can be very demotivating, can be toxic, but on the other hand, it can be, like, the best thing ever.
Yeah.
Like, when you're receiving a lot of nice comments, a lot of love, it's really nice.
And how have you found it, though? Because you literally, like, in lockdown as well.
I know. I think that was probably one of the hardest things. I think in lockdown, what happened was a lot of people didn't have much time on their hands other than to be on social media and kind of attack people and just...
Well, you've said that before. There's people have called you, like, bedroom DJ or whatever. Like,
I know.
Did you own that label, or, like, were you like, screw it?
I think for me, it was like, I owned it, and I think my first event out of lockdown was actually your event. It was a Bollywood drive-in, and I was like, do you know what? After this event, no one's going to be able to say anything to me. Yeah. What are you going to say? You're going to still say bedroom DJ? And I remember I actually captioned my post that same night, the TikTok DJ has stepped out. I was like, the TikTok DJ has stepped out because, you lot have been hating on me, and now I've stepped out. And, like, a year on, I'm still DJing out. I'm DJing like every week, loving it. Do you know what I mean? And I think social media is a very toxic place, but I think it's also really good. So I've got two mixed opinions about it.
And that's okay. That's okay to love and hate it. But I think, so many people get the negative and drawn up in, like, those negative vibes that they never see. Actually, look, there's a load of another audience that's on the other side of that hate. So, like, keep making, and someone's going to connect with it.
It's so true. And I think as well, one of the things I have learned, and I'm still learning, because I've only been doing this for 2 years, and to many people that's not a long time. Like, there's people who've been doing it for 10 years, for 15 years. And I think in the 2 years that I have been doing social media and DJing and content, I realised it's not about the first 5 videos you put out. It's like about 100 videos later. Like, you could put out 50 videos and, like, it's not great, content is great, but maybe the views aren't great. But that, like, 51 video, like, that might be the one that goes absolutely viral. You might get a big opportunity from it. And I think consistency is key.
For sure. I think one thing for me is, at my age, and I say this like I'm like 50 or something, I'm 35 this year.
Really don't look it.
But with dancing, there's this thing of, like, why is she dancing at her age? She's got a kid, and, like, Does she want attention? And like, you know, people associate dance with look at me, look at me. That's not what it is. People dance for enjoyment, for like physical activity, to release in the same way as exercise. There are so many reasons people dance. But I think there is this thing in South Asian culture that dance is associated with attention. And it's never been about that for me. But it's a very easy link to make. And it's a very easy link for an older woman like myself for people to say. And for a little while I did stop doing it because people were like, oh, that's weird, isn't she married and she's still dancing and still heckling for likes and whatever.
Oh my God.
And it did put me off a little bit. And then I just thought, wait, if I stop doing it, what's another woman going to feel like and think, I can't put my video up either, you know?
Yeah,
I have
100%.
to pay it forward and do things that make me feel a little bit uncomfortable, because I think in the position I'm in, if I don't do it, so many others are going to follow and be shy. And I've been told that from when I come to my classes and teach them, that I have helped people, and I want to keep doing that.
Yeah, and I think that's great. I think it's so good you didn't like fully stop and you picked it back up, because you are definitely inspiring people to do things like be South Asian and dance and own it and actually make a career out of it. Like, you have made a full-on career out of it, which is amazing. Would you say dance is good for fitness then? I know you just mentioned that. So it's really good, isn't it? I've heard that.
So I do dance and I do Pilates as well. Those are only two forms of exercise, and I love it. I think dancing is something that it conditions every part of your body.
Yeah.
It doesn't focus on like upper body, lower body. It's the whole thing. It's cardio, and it also like gives you that endorphin hit.
Yeah.
There is nothing better than dancing to good music and good vibes music.
I think I did a dance session once, and this was like a while ago, but it was for an hour. Obviously not straight dancing for an hour, but like, you know, breaks in between. And I'm not going to lie to you, I was knackered after. I was like, this was a full body workout.
Yeah.
I can see like why it's like cardio and it's so good for you, because I know how I felt after that. I felt great, but I was like, this was a full body workout.
A lot of people
amazing.
said the same thing about like doing Zumba, and then they say, well, Zumba's not dancing, you're just, who cares?
Yeah.
Like, it's getting people moving. If someone doesn't feel comfortable enough to go to a dance choreography class but feels more comfortable going to a Zumba class, good on them.
Yeah.
Like, I think it's great that like Zumba exists for the people that don't actually want to go to like Pineapple Studios, learn a routine. Might seem a bit daunting. It might be easier for them to go to their gym and do a Zumba class. So I think it's brilliant.
Yeah, definitely. So when do you do your dance classes?
It's every Tuesday at Pineapple, and I've said this before, that no matter what I do, I was running from the set of Marvel to go and teach my Tuesday class. I couldn't say anything at the time, but I try my best not to put a cover in whenever I can, because I think that is where my passion stems from. Meeting everyday people who want to dance or have had this mental block that they can't, and I feel privileged actually to be there, you know, door opener into dance.
Oh my God, I absolutely love that. Well, I really enjoyed having you on today's episode. I think I know, like, they just went so quick.
This was part 1.
I know, literally, we need a part 2 coming out. But honestly, you did so, like, honestly, it was such a great episode. I loved chatting with you. And for those that don't already know, get to know, dance classes every Tuesday at Pineapple Studios.
Pineapple Studios, that's where I am.
And thank you so much for listening, and I will catch you guys in my next episode.